Hi, my name is JT and welcome to G Club. Today we're going to be talking about the solo variant of Oaxaca Crafts of a Culture. In Oaxaca Crafts of a Culture, you are typically building out your wares in the multiplayer version to then set out into your market stall, preparing to actually sell it. In the solo variant, you're actually going to be selling it to customers, and so you're going to have customers that are looking for things like wood carvings and tin art, and you're going to be building these crafts out into the stall, getting ready to sell it to them. Let's take a look at this engine building, dice rolling game in solo mode. Alright, so let's get in the setup of the solo mode for Oaxaca Crafts of a Culture. One of the things I want to point out is if you've already watched the multiplayer video, then there are links below in the description that are going to point out the areas that are unique to the solo mode. So if you want to skip to those, please go into the descriptions and click on the timestamps, and you'll see a unique icon pop up for solo mode. To set up Oaxaca, you're going to shuffle all 5 handicraft decks and place them out in the middle of the table. So we'll start off with the pottery cards, the jewelry cards, the textile cards, the wood carving cards, and the tin art. Then you'll shuffle up the Taurus deck. You will draw 6 cards and place them all face up in a 2x3 grid. And then placing 1 craft token in the first column to represent which round you're in. You'll notice that this game is going to have 3 rounds. Then you'll place the Taurus deck right here and leave an open space for the discard pile. Next, you'll give yourself a player mat, a tourist meeple, a banner card, 5 custom dice. Players will also receive a reference card that shows the different handicraft decks and what they do. And then on the back, it's referencing how to use the stars as well as how to combine dice. And then you put the craft tokens out on the table within reach. And then you'll take the first player marker and, well, you'll give it to yourself. This is solo play. What are you doing with this card anyway? Put it away. Put it back in the box. Let's take a closer look at the player mat and see how Oaxaca plays. Alright, at the beginning of the round, you're going to take 5 extra dice and you're going to use them as customer dice. So let's roll them out, put them out here, and we'll set them up. And so this is going to be our market of customers who are looking for certain wares. And so you can see here that we've got 5 customers, and those 5 customers are looking for wood carvings, textiles, and that's it. So in the solo mode, you do have a few extra player mats, and what you're going to want to do is use the other side for scoring. So let's go ahead and set that up right over here. And then you can take either a craft token or just an extra meeple and set it up here on your scoring track so you can keep score as you go along. Once we got that set up, we're just going to make sure we have some extra space here for a discard pile when we sell things to customers, as well as just an area in which we can put our customer dies that have actually been sold to. At the beginning of the round, a player will roll their dice. Then they can decide which ones they're going to put into the daylight box and which ones they're going to re-roll, and put the remaining results here into the daylight box. So let's talk about what you can do with your dice. On your turn, you move one of your dice over. So let's take this wood carving result and let's move it over here to our nightfall box. And we'll use it to do our gather action. So what you'll do is you'll look at the symbol, you'll match it up with what's on the card, and you'll draw 2 cards from that handicraft deck. Then you'll take a look at the 2 cards, decide which one you want, place one into your workshop, and place the other one back in the deck. Now, you can choose to either put it on the top of the deck, or you can decide to put it on the bottom of the deck. It's the player's choice. In this case, we'll just put it on the top of the deck. Then we'll take craft tokens equal to the number on top of the card, and then we'll place those 3 tokens on top of that card. These tokens represent the amount of work that needs to be done before you can finish the handicraft and move it to the right of your player mat or to your market stall. You'll notice that the workshop can hold up to 3 at once. Even though it says 3 here, that does not mean that there's a limit. Next up is the craft action. The craft action allows you to take one of the die results, such in this case the wood carvings, and we'll use it to take one craft token off of each card that matches that particular die result. So in this case we have this one and this one here. We'll remove a token from here and a token from there. We will not take a token off this jewelry one because it does not match. Then we'll take this die and move it to the Nightfall box. And anything that's uncovered, such as this card right here, we will move over to our market stall. Once it's in our market stall, we can utilize any of the power that is on the card. In the solo mode, a few cards in the woodworking deck require some special changes to their text. So, in this particular card, we're looking at placing one craft token on a card in an opponent's workshop. However, in solo mode, you'll use this ability to actually play a craft token right next to one of these handicraft decks. With this card, instead of adding a craft token to each card in an opponent's workshop, you're then able to take 3 tokens and put them in any one of the craft decks. It could be 3 on 1, or it could be 1 and 3 different ones. It could be 2 on 1 and 1 on the other. You can spread them out however you like. This last card would allow you in multiplayer to copy a bonus from an opponent's market stall. However, in solo mode, you can use the same card to copy an ability that's in your workshop. When using the wild results, you can still do the gather or the craft action. The difference is that when you go to do the gather action, you're only going to pull one of the cards off the deck, or if you were to do the craft action, you would just simply remove one of the craft tokens from any one of the cards, but only one. And of course, once you've done that action, you would simply move it over to the Nightfall box. Let's take a closer look at what else you can do with your dice. Another thing you can do is combine dice results. So let's say we were trying to specialize in woodworking, and because we have pottery and we have textiles, those are not the dice results we're looking for. So we could use these 2 results and basically convert them into a woodworking result. And then we can use that result just like we would with any other regular result for gather and craft actions. Another way to combine results is to take one die and put it with one of our special abilities off of a card here in our market stall, or another ability card that shows up in our tourist deck. So what you would do is you would simply exhaust this card, you would combine these 2 results, and you would do the same thing in turning that into a woodworking result. Keep in mind, when it comes to combining results, you always have to use at least one die. So you could use one die with another die, or you can use a die with a special ability on a card in your market stall, or a card in the tourist deck. The last thing you can do with your die is to put it into the early morning box. At the end of the round, typically you can take a die out of the early morning box and put it to any side that you want to and put it into your daylight box. However, in a solo game, what you can do is, instead of taking it out and putting it in there with any side you want to, you can put it back within your pool and instead take a craft token and put it next to one of the handicraft decks. Let's talk about some of the options that you have on your turn. On your turn, you may use up to 2 powers from your cards in your stall. You can scrap a project from your workshop to create room, and then discard the card to the bottom of the deck. Another option you have is to take your tourist meeple, represented here, with this nice purple meeple, and put it on one of the tourist cards. Keeping in mind that the tourist meeple can only go in the column where the craft token is located. When you place your meeple on the tourist card, you simply get that power from that card. So in this case, we would get a jewelry die result. Throughout the round, the player will use their dice for the gather or craft action, activating the cards in their market stall for their powers, combining dice to get the die result they want to do the gather or craft action, scrapping projects in their workshop, putting them back underneath the deck, using their tourist meeple to activate a tourist card, or instead of using one of their dice at the end, they can simply save it into the early morning box. Once the player has used all of their dice, the round will end. So you get to the end of the round and you have these beautiful handicrafts sitting in your market stall. And you have customers lining up at the door to buy your wares. Now here's where some tough decisions come into play. Do I sell this to the customer and lose out on the special ability? Or do I hold tight onto that card and continue to use its special ability, hoping that I still will be able to sell it to a customer in the final round? So let's say that even though I have this textile customer who wants this textile wares, I'm going to hold off because I really like this craft action. So I'm not going to worry about this customer. May just kind of throw them at the end, just so that I know that I'm not going to sell. But let's take a look at what would happen if I was actually going to sell to this wood crafting customer who wants our wood crafting ware. We'll pair up the wood carving dice with the wood carving card. Paying attention to the number on the top right hand corner of the card, and we'll double that number to get our score for this card. So that'll be 10 points. Then what we'll look for, if you remember, we were putting craft tokens next to our handicraft decks. The reason why that's important is because those actually give us additional bonus points. So every time I sell a wood crafting card, I need to go look to see if I've got anything next to that handicraft deck that represents woodworking. So in this case, there is one craft token right up here, and that's going to give us an additional victory point for this card. So we'll bump that up to now 11 victory points. Then we'll take the card, we'll put it over here in discard pile, and we'll put to the customer sold their dice over there next to the card. So let's see another example. We'll use this jewelry card, the jewelry ware, and we'll pair it up with our jewelry customer. This card is typically 3 victory points, but we're going to double that and add 6 to our victory track. So that'll give us up to 17 for those of you doing math at home. We will check to see if there's anything up here in the handicraft deck. There is nothing up here, so we will not add any additional victory points for the craft tokens. However, this does have additional bonus points on the card itself. So, because it's so beautiful, we're going to add an additional victory point right here on the track, and we'll put these over here in the discard pile. Let's say that you've got a customer with a star on the side. This is like one of those customers that's not really sure what they want, but they want to go ahead and get a souvenir for their family member back home, and they're not necessarily looking for something in particular. So they're not really willing to pay out more than they have to. And so in this particular case, let's say that we sold them this particular piece of jewelry. Typically what we would be doing is scoring double the points on the card. So in this case, that'd be 3. But because it's actually a wild side of the die, or a wild customer, then we're only going to score the actual number on the card itself. So in this case, we're going to go up 3 victory points, and we're going to move this over here and discard this card as well. At the end of the round, you'll refresh all your cards in your market stall that you've used. Reclaim your tourist meeple. If you have a die in the early morning box, you will take it, put it to the side that you want. So we want jewelry, and you'll put it into the daylight box. At the end of the round, you'll take any used customer dice, and any die that you would like that still has not been sold to, and re-roll them. And then, of course, set up your market again of your customers. Then you move the craft token from round 1 to round 2 in between these 2 tourist cards that can now be utilized by your tourist meeple in round 2. Play will continue like this for 3 rounds. So, once we get done with round 3, that will trigger the end of the game, and we will go into final scoring. After your 3rd round of selling to customers, you will check your score, and your score will represent something like a Yelp review. And that scoring will represent anything between, I found the crafts to be uninspired and of poor quality. They're not worth your money. All the way up to over 45 points, where these are the most authentic pieces that money can buy. If you come to Oaxaca, you have to visit this artist. And that's how you play Oaxaca in solo mode. And that was Oaxaca Crafts of a Culture. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about how the game plays, please post those in the comments below. If you like it, please give us a like. And if you'd like to subscribe to our channel, we'd love to have you as a subscriber as well. Also, I want to point out that we do have a multiplayer video. And so if you're looking for that, please click on those links in the description below, and that'll direct you right over to the multiplayer video. In the meantime, This has been JT, and you've been watching G Club in solo mode. And we'd love to have you as a subscriber if I could actually talk. Well, we can still we can side of a die. We would simply just score the opponent. Let's actually flip this back over to the correct way. In this case, it's kind of a wild card in this case. So let's sell this wood proofing. And if you would, wouldn't mind, what am I even saying? What am I going to talk about? What am I saying, Evan? Can you tell me? Can you tell me what I'm saying? Again, like you said, I'm drawing a blank, but there is no drawing. Because the blank is an absence of a drawing.